Hey, busy business people. I am here today with another entrepreneur taking action, Carl Ficks. He practiced law for over 30 years and walked away to help entrepreneurs be more physically active and less stressed. And I'm getting the scoop today on how he did it. Okay, so to kick things off, like that is a pretty big life change, right? You went from being a lawyer to making it your mission to help entrepreneurs. Like, what prompted you to make that switch?
Sure. Well, for starters, thanks for having me, Christine. I'm psyched to be here and I'm looking forward to chatting with you. Uh, I'm very passionate about fitness and wellness, and it is a bedrock success principle in my life. And it's the way I got through a very busy law practice. I was very athletic as a kid, through high school, through college, a little bit through law school, and then I fell off a cliff the first 5 years of my practice. And I did not pay attention to myself. And I woke up one morning and realized this was not sustainable. I need to get back to what I did as a younger guy. And I got back on the fitness wagon, and I found over those 30 plus years that allowed me to put in these mega hours. And that's not unique to the legal profession. Everybody's busy. But I found with this fitness component in my life, it just allowed me, gave me great clarity of thought and allowed me to handle a lot of stuff that came at me very fast. So it
How do
seemed to
you
be a
think that
natural
helped you?
progression.
Oh, sorry.
It, no, it helped me in that I would be able to. I love to work out in the morning, so I would work out in the morning, and I would clarify some things in my mind, some objections that I had, some friction, and I would work them through. So when I would get to the office at 7:30 or 8 in the morning, after having worked out, I had much more clarity, and I said, "Okay, we can deal with this." And again, it allowed me to put in these hours because we're all busy, as we all know. We're all busy working, but then we have this other thing called life, which we all have responsibilities. We might have a spouse, a partner. We might be a parent. We might be involved in elder care in the community, in your church, whatever. So as this work thing rolls on, you also have this life thing. And it just allowed me to handle a lot of things all at once.
Yeah, I think that's just really interesting because, most people, one of their biggest excuses for not being more physically active is that they don't have time. And it's like you're saying the opposite was true for you, that by making the time to be physically active, it actually helped you get more done in the day instead of taking time away from getting things done.
100%. I find most of the successful entrepreneurs have a schedule and they keep a schedule. It's not a laissez-faire. I'll get to it when I get to it. It's a personality type. They have a schedule. Fitness, frankly, should be scheduled. If you put it on the schedule, there's some accountability. And one thing that always cracks me up is people love Starbucks, as we know. And if you don't have the Starbucks app and you're in line, you might be in line for 20 to 25 minutes. But people will do that. There are great 20-minute workouts that people may not know about or may just ignore. They'd rather have their coffee. So to me, it's a bit of a paradox that you're okay with standing in a Starbucks line for 20 minutes to get your coffee, but you can't work out for 20 minutes. I don't get that. So I think you have the time. You just need to schedule it and put it on your calendar. And I love to do it in the morning, as I said, because then I own it. Nobody can take it from me. And we all know days go sideways. We have a punch list of things we want to do. 1 to 5, you finish one, and all of a sudden there's a client or a customer in crisis, and you need to fight that fire. And it's the end of the day. You haven't gotten anything you wanted to get to, and you have no time for your workout. So I love the mornings, and I work out, and then I owned it. Nobody and nothing could take it from me.
I think I heard something, I don't remember where I heard it from, but it stuck with me. And it was like, it's not that we don't have enough time, it's how we're choosing to prioritize our time. I mean, that's exactly what you just said with the Starbucks reference, that it really is just a matter of choosing your time. And I say this knowing full well that I am absolutely terrible at it. That was part of what made me really interested in having you on as a guest, because I'm not a morning person. I don't roll out of bed happy to greet the day. I would happily curl back under the covers and stay there all day long. And it's like, but everybody tells you there's all this power in these morning routines, and I've never been able to do them. And it's like, I'm not
Well,
even like a human until about 9 or 10 o'clock.
yeah, so that's okay, because it is not for everybody. And that's actually another principle that I preach is flexibility. So you're not a morning person. So if you can, on your calendar, block off a half hour from 1 p.m. to 1:30 and have that as your workout time, and make it sacred space, that nobody can touch this. Again, unless there's a real legit crisis, and just carve it out and make it happen. And you can also build other accountability things in, like if you meet a friend to walk around a high school track, you're going to meet that friend at 1 p.m. You don't want to disappoint him or her. You want to get there. They're going to be there. So if you say, gosh, my friend Ann is going to be at the track, I really got to get there, you're going to get there because that's a little accountability hack that'll make it happen.
Yeah. Well, I love looking at some of those kinds of things for like when I was prepping some of the stuff I was going to talk to you about. It's like, okay, well, what are the challenges? What are the excuses? How can we maybe break some of those down and find solutions to them? So I like that one. Like, make sure that you actually schedule the time, hold it sacred, find someone that's going to do it with you so you feel like you're going to let them down. I think that's a fantastic hack. What are some other things? Like, what are some other excuses that you've heard people, give you for why they can't or why it's hard or why they couldn't do it that day or
For some folks, it's an attainability thing. Like I've run a bunch of marathons, and I only say that to inform, not to impress. And somebody says, "Well, how the heck could you do that?" Well, when I started out, I could not run 2 miles. That, as I said, the first 5 years of my practice, I just was hammering the hours, and then at night I was hammering the fettuccine alfredo, and I gained a ton of weight, and then I realized this is not good. I always wanted to run the New York City Marathon, so that was my goal. And when I started out, I could not run 2 miles without stopping, and that shocked me. But I just kept at it, and you come up with a plan. That's something I do with my clients. Everybody has plans at work. They have strategic plans, they have business plans, they have metrics. People are really good about that, and that's a transferable skill. You can do that and design a fitness plan, or if a fitness plan is designed for you, you can follow it. So I just simply came up with a plan and I followed it. But there's an attainability thing. So somebody could say, well, I could never run a marathon. Yeah, I bet you could. I bet you could, even though you may not think you can run a mile. You can. So, another thing is I ran a 5 kilometer road race in October. That's 3.1 miles. The race organizers gave the field 80 minutes for that 5K. That's approximately 27 minutes per mile. In that race, and I use air quotes, there were people pushing strollers, on rollerblades, on skateboards, running, walking. Everybody, all types of folks. And that is an incredible opportunity to have some really positive energy. If there's a five, and if 5Ks are all over the place, if there's a 5 kilometer road race in your neighborhood, sign up for it because you'll meet some really cool people, and it's a really good time, and you don't have to lay down 6 minute miles like Olympians. Most race organizers will give you 25 to 30 minutes per mile to finish that. That is attainable and that's doable, and it'll just really pump you up.
and that makes a lot of sense. I know there's a lot of mindset issue. There's a lot of, issues around time management, around priorities. I think in a lot of ways, I feel like it's almost worse for women, but maybe that's just because I am one. And we have to show up a little bit differently. So it's like, especially in this world with all these Zoom meetings and things like that now, it's like carving out 30 minutes and going and getting sweaty. Well, now you're going to need a shower, and then you're going to have to blow dry your hair, and then you're going to have to redo your makeup, and then you're going to need, so you need basically another, 30, 40 minutes to get yourself back together. So it's like you've spent more time getting back together than you did actually exercising.
Well, you said something about showing up. We're all in service to others. You're in service to your clients, your customers. You're in service to the community with this podcast. In service to your family. In order to be in service, you have to be. You have to be vertical. You have to be alive. You have to be able to honor your commitments and honor your word. So it's really a self-care thing. And don't confuse self-care with selfishness. Little self-care is not being selfish. I like to tell the story. There was a guy on my street. His wife gave birth to her third child, and he needed a break. So he went to Italy alone for a week. I have two children with my wife. That childbirth looked pretty rigorous. Now she needed a break after that. I didn't jet off to Italy because I needed a break. So there's a difference between self-care and selfishness. And the self-care, in my humble opinion, allows you to be in service. It's no different than if you're an Uber driver and your car is in the shop, you're just Christina with a car that doesn't work. You're not Christina, the Uber driver, because your tools of the trade are offline. So if you have multiple businesses, they depend on Christina. So you've got to be in service, you have to be. So I think self-care allows you to accomplish that.
And I think most people, me included, wait until they start having health issues or, have a bigger health scare even before they make that realization to what you just said, that it's like I can't do the things I need to do and be who I need to be for people in my life if I can't be, if something's wrong. I think that was a huge, like, I've just started working on fitness, so I have never in my entire life been a physically active person. The closest that I got was back in high school in marching band. And I had a
Mm-hmm.
blast in marching band. And that was about it. I don't think I've ever ran. I don't think I've ever run for anything. Maybe when one of my kids was like little and falling and I ran to catch them, but that was probably about it. It's like I'm as
Yeah.
far out of
Well,
all of that as you could possibly get. So it's been a huge uphill battle to even do something like working out for like 30 minutes. Like I sit all day at a desk. I have a standing desk, making myself use it a little bit more and things like that.
well,
It's a mindset thing, 100%.
yeah. I mean, a couple things. My wife is not a runner, but she works out, and she walks too fast for me. I cannot keep up with her. So I would rather run or ride a bike. She walks fast. So if she asks me, "Do you want to go for a walk?" I always say, I'll go for a stroll because I can't keep up with you walking. She's just a fast walker. But if you start small, and when I speak to groups, I love this story. I pulled it out of Runner's World. There was a 65-year-old guy in Georgia, I know where you are, who was a 2.5 pack smoker per day. And he wanted to stop. So he decided that every time he wanted to smoke a butt, he would run to his mailbox. And he said the first time he did that, he almost threw up. And then he would do it again. And then the next time he wanted a cigarette, he would run to the telephone pole on his street. And then it became the tree down the street, and then the public park down the street. Long story short, this guy ended up running an ultra marathon. And his quote was awesome. He said, "As slow as I go, I'm faster than my couch." So he started really, really small, just running to his mailbox, and that's doable. So you can break it down into small, bite-sized pieces, and it works out. I mean, if I said to you, "Okay, Christina, we're going to run 10 miles today," you'd say, "Wow, Carl, you're crazy." But if I say, "Okay, we're going to go 2 miles, then we're going to walk 2 miles, then we're going to run a mile, then we're going to walk another 2 miles," you think, well, maybe I can do that. So if you just break it down, it helps with your mindset thing.
And what are some activities that you typically recommend for somebody who's just starting to get back and try and be active?
Well, here's a great 20-minute workout. Like I mentioned, the high school track. I love running around the track in my town. If you go to your high school track, one loop around that track is 400 meters, also about a quarter mile. If you set your watch to 20 or 25 minutes, however long you want to do it, walk one loop and then do a slow jog and then walk and then do a slow jog. And the next thing you know, 20 minutes will be gone. And that's a nice little workout. You can do these things without fancy equipment too. You can do something called step ups and box jumps, and you could tie it in with some push ups and some sit ups. So basically, a step up is using the stairs in your house. You go up one or two, and then you back down. You go up one or two, then you back down. Do 40 of those. And then a box is like a milk crate. Jump up on the box and then jump back down. Do 30 of those. And then scale it down. And then if you want, do 20 sit ups and then 10 push ups and then hit repeat. Do that for 20 minutes. That's a good way to get started. And these short workouts, I changed my workout regime about 10 years ago. I started doing CrossFit way before CrossFit was popular. And I hired a coach. And he was giving me 20-minute workouts. And I remember, Christina, like it was yesterday, I said to this guy, Max, I said, 20 minutes? Are you kidding me? Because I was used to very long workouts. He said, when you're done with these workouts I'm giving you, you will be crying for your mama. And he was right. I mean, some of the 20-minute workouts he gave me, it's this high intensity interval training HIIT. Very short, very high intensity, but very good. So there are a bunch of workouts you can do without fancy equipment. You go to
Yeah,
your
and
high
I
school
talked
track,
to
you need a pair of running shoes or a good pair of sturdy walking shoes. That's it.
yeah, I talked to one guy that was a personal trainer, and he specializes in working with entrepreneurs. And he said, like, even though he owned a gym, and like he actually lives above his gym, so it's like he doesn't even have to travel. He can literally just go downstairs and be at his gym. That he went, like, I think it was like 2 or 3 years, he said, where he didn't exercise at all in his own gym. And he was a personal trainer and he was helping other people. And his own mindset kind of got in the way. And he started wearing like baggy clothes so people couldn't tell that he was gaining weight and things like that. And he said he just figured out he was just stuck and he couldn't get past it. And he said this trick that he used to get past the mindset and to get himself to go do it was, he said, I am only going to do it for 5 minutes. I will not exercise for more than 5 minutes. And so when he approached it that way, instead of saying like I'm going to do at least 20, saying I can only do 5, and he said it just retrained his brain to enjoy it again. He said he kept, when he hit the 5, he didn't really want to stop, but it felt attainable that he was only going to do it for 5, no more than 5, no matter what. That was it. And he hit the 5 and he wanted to go over, but he made himself stop. And he did that a few times, and then he made it 10 minutes, and then he made it 20 minutes, and then he made it until he had gotten past the mindset. I thought that was a neat approach. I mean, it's kind of like the
It,
flip side of what you're doing, but something about the way his brain works, that worked for him.
yeah, so I get it. So I'll share this story. A very good friend of mine at my old law firm died in his sleep last March. It was a big deal. I texted a friend of mine and said, hey, if you haven't been to a cardiologist, go. He responded and said, funny, I just went. He told me I needed to lose 25 pounds in a year. I responded, not a problem, I can help you. That's only 2 pounds a month or a half a pound a week. And he responded, he said, well, when you put it that way, it seems doable. Because it is. If I said, Christina, you need to lose 25 pounds by Sunday, well, you're going to have to cut off an arm to make that happen. But when I and it wasn't a pitch, this is a friend of mine, and I said, a half a pound a week, we can do that. And that makes it doable. That's the 5 minutes that you just shared with your friend. And it's ironic that you say that. I lived in the legal world for so long. So many lawyers run around saying you need a will, you need, estate planning. The number of lawyers without wills is staggering. We
Yep.
need to practice what we preach. Uh, you know, every lawyer will tell you, do you have a will? Because you need one. And then the response should be, well, do you have one? Because if the answer is no, it's why should I listen to you?
Yep.
You
Well, I
know?
think that's true across like so many industries. Like I've been in marketing for, 15 years now, and it's, marketers are the same way. Like we have the mechanic with the car that doesn't work, I mean, it's like we're not doing our own marketing most of the time. And you've got, people that are in sales and stuff, and they're not doing sales for themselves. And it seems to be like a trend that most people don't actually practice what they preach for some reason.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny. Again, when I started practicing law, I graduated in 1988. I finally had enough money to buy a new car in 1990. It was my first new car. What did that mean? What that meant was I cleaned the rims of my new car with a toothbrush. I was fastidious with my new car. I'd have it detailed. I'd clean the rims with a toothbrush, as I said. I would vacuum the interior, regular oil changes. I took care of that new car way better than I took care of myself. So I'm not saying don't go buy the new car. It was a big deal to me. It was my first new car. But when I woke up 5 years down the road, I said, I'm treating this car way better than I'm treating me. This is kind of wacky. We need to change that up. So there are a lot of busy and successful professionals and entrepreneurs who do treat their cars better than their bodies.
Yeah, or something
So
in their life. They spend more time on their business, or more time on cleaning their house, or more time on watching binging Netflix or reading business books. Or I think everybody's
yeah, I
kind of
mean,
got their thing that is easy to focus on, that makes them feel good. That's not necessarily doing anything for them.
right. I'm a huge Rolling Stones fan, okay? Mick Jagger is 78 years old. He was born in July of 43. Every 3 hour Stones concert, Jagger averages running 12 miles per show. That doesn't happen by accident. And there's a guy, 78, who is just staying at it. And he's a workout maniac. And it allows him to be in service to the millions and millions of Rolling Stone fans around the world. And I just look at that guy and I think he's got it down because he can still go out and bang out a 3 hour concert. Charlie Watts, who just passed away, said he would love watching Mick during the shows. Charlie was just back there drumming and he'd see Mick running and running and running. But uh, again, that didn't happen by accident. Mick Jagger works out and it allows him to be what he is at the age of 78. So
Yeah, I think we
I
have the
just think it's a cool
entrepreneurial
lesson.
equivalents of that too. I mean, you see these people, like almost every successful business person that you see has some form of workout routine. They're working with a personal trainer, they're getting up and they're doing like yoga or running a mile or something before they start their day. It's a trend that you see over and over again. Everybody who's successful is like carving out that time for themselves in the day.
Yeah, and again, it's what allowed me to work these Herculean hours. And I was on the litigation side of the house. I mean, in law, you basically two sides of the ledger. You got litigation or transactional. Litigation was, kind of a full contact sport. But in litigation, Christina, there's so much you can't control. If I inherited a file and I'm defending a client, you have the facts of the case, the law of the case, the judge assigned to the case, your opposing attorney, your opposing party, the media, depending on what kind of case it is. These are all things that are completely out of your control. What's within your control is your ability to schedule a workout in the morning to allow you to handle all of the things that are out of your control more resiliently. So it's really it's kind of a breathe deep. We can If we can't control it, what can we control? So it's almost like taking an inventory. All right, we can't control that, but here's what I do have control over, and it's getting up and working out, or in your case, if you're not a morning person, just scheduling that, and then it allows you to handle all of these things that come at you fast. We all get curveballs, and how do we
Yep.
respond to them? Again, it helped me respond to all of these things, building in this fitness component.
I can see that the way you talked about how it helps you kind of think about your day before you even got started and address some of what's coming up. And I mean, you went in already kind of having set the tone for your whole day. It's like it makes a lot of sense where that would work. Now, I know like I try and keep these around 20, 30 minutes. I know I've kept you talking for about 25. Um, I want to hear more kind of about what you do, because I know you help people with a lot of these hurdles. Like we've talked about a lot of things that people have to go through and things they have to struggle. And I know that's something you help people with. So can you tell us a little bit more about like you, what you do, who you like to work with?
Sure. I What I do is I like to speak to groups, community groups, bar associations, companies, and I have a program and I talk about my program. So it's kind of one to many. But I also do one-on-one coaching. If somebody was in the fitness game and they don't know how to get back, I'll help them get back. If they've never been in the game and they want to get into the game, I can help them do that as well. So I like to work with folks that are motivated to change things up and, goal oriented, which most entrepreneurs are, because, in my system, the first thing is to formulate a goal. What do you want out of this? If you want to run a marathon, we can do that. If you just want to feel better, we can do that too. So that's like right out of the gates. Let's formulate a goal, and then we'll go from there. And when I speak to larger groups, I spoke to a large group of attorneys at an insurance company recently. It was something that the person that dialed me into that just wanted her team to get some hacks to be a little more resilient, because the pandemic, as you well know, has really impacted folks negatively. Weight gain is through the roof, depression, anxiety, the whole package, feeling of isolation and loneliness. And fitness, I think, again, is a way back to feeling better about yourself. It's well established that fitness is a common prescription, non-drug prescription, to combat anxiety and depression. So that's when I speak to these groups, I again share what worked for me and invite the groups to be curious and to try a few things out. And I'm hopeful and confident that they'll work for the folks I'm speaking with.
Yeah, I love a lot of that. I heard, I don't remember where I heard this one at either, but this one person was telling me that if you can't get motivated, sometimes you just have to get committed. They said sometimes commitment can get you through more than motivation can, because the motivation can come later as long as you're committed to taking the action. And I thought that was really
Um,
powerful.
I I like that. Yeah, it is. And again, that's that accountability too. If you've committed to your friend that you're going to meet her at the track Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1 o'clock, you're going to hold that space, and you're going to be there. So you're committed. And believe me, there are many mornings, I live in New England and it's now winter, and it, you know, it's cold and it's dark. And, I went out for a long ride recently. It was 27 degrees out. But what I was doing, and you talk about commitment, there's this Chris Doris, this mental toughness coach, talks about all inness, all being all in. He describes it as an infinitely committed state. And what I did is I was playful on LinkedIn. I had a cycling goal, and I basically stood and I did a selfie and I said, "We'll ride for you." And what I was doing was riding miles in honor or in memory of somebody. And that way it became more of a kind of a community thing. Well, a friend of mine reached out, and I was doing a 40-mile ride in honor of his mother. I got up that Saturday morning. It was 25 or 27 degrees, as I said, and I thought, oh man, it's going to be cold out. You're riding 16, 17 miles an hour. The wind chill is now 15, 16, 17 miles. I have the right gear, but it's dark and it's cold. But I committed to ride these miles for my friend's mother. And that is one of the things that got me out of bed and got me onto the bike. And when I finished that ride, it was like rocket fuel. And I was infinitely committed to doing this because I gave this guy my word.
That's a smart way to approach it. I have never thought about it like that. That is a really cool trick.
Yeah.
So if somebody was just trying to like get started on this like approach and they want to learn more about you, where would they go?
My website, carlfix.com. And actually, if you go on the website or carlfix.com/free, I've got a piece, basically 10 steps to get back in the game, which might be helpful to your audience. So again, carlfix.com/free. It's 10 hacks or steps that were helpful and have been helpful to me, that I think your audience and your community might find helpful. I'm also on LinkedIn. I post every Friday. I do this thing called the Friday Fix, where I offer tips and little anecdotes and stories to help motivate and inspire people. I do that every Friday. I started that beginning of the year. Tomorrow will be episode number 50 because it's week 50. And
Nice.
yeah, I've been doing that once a week the entire year. I'm on Facebook as well. So I'd love to connect with anybody in your audience on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And I will make sure those links are somewhere around this video, wherever you happen to be watching the video from. So I'll make
Okay.
sure those links are there so you can get straight to it. Thank you for sharing that resource. That's really cool.
Yeah, I had fun writing it, and again, it's things that have helped me, and I think they at least one of the 10 would be helpful to folks that are listening.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and for sharing all of your expertise with us. Is there anything else that you would like to, any final advice or tips you'd like to share?
I would just like to say, invite people to just get out there and keep moving. Just keep moving. I when I give my talk, I say most of us have been stuck in the Atlanta airport. All right, we're changing planes in Atlanta. We're stuck. We have a layover. Half hour walking around the Atlanta airport, or any airport for that matter, is a great way to kill some time, and it's serving multiple purposes. Great people watching. You can look at the departure and arrival board. It takes you to various places, but you're moving. And the next thing you know, that 2 hour delay is now condensed to an hour and a half or an hour and 15 minutes because you've been out walking. I was just down a couple weeks ago in the Fort Lauderdale airport, walking from terminal to terminal, and they had signs, FLL walking path, and they were giving the distances between the terminals. I took a photo of it because I want to use it in my PowerPoint. But there you go. I mean, Fort Lauderdale has 4 terminals. So, from terminal 3 to terminal 2, it said 0.35 miles, something like that. Oh, okay. If I walk to terminal 2 and come back, 7/10 of a mile, better than sitting around. So
Uh,
just keep moving in some way, shape, or form. And there's no downside to that.
yep. That's actually the last time I ran, come to think of it, was the Atlanta airport. So getting one
There
plane
you
coming in
go.
a little bit late and the next one leaving a little bit early and on the other side of the airport. And my son did
Sure.
not want to take the little train in the airport. He wanted to get on the people movers, those little the moving sidewalks. And,
Yeah.
they don't go the whole way. So it's like you have to run from one to the next one. And then we ran on those sidewalks. So you feel like you're going fast as anything, right? And with our
Yeah.
luggage. And so he was having a
So you were
blast
doing,
doing that.
yeah, you were doing your full-on Home Alone recreation of running to catch that
Yeah,
flight.
pretty much.
The
Yeah,
the
flying through the
McAllister
airport.
family, right?
Yep.
Catching that
And it's
flight to
like with our
Paris.
little luggage on wheels things, with you. And it's like we're going on the little moving sidewalks and they make noise as you're rolling over like running down those moving sidewalks. So it's just like,
Yeah,
like the whole way. It was great. He had a
yeah.
blast. I was out of breath. I was like, I can't, whew. But I did. So
Well,
that's actually the last time I ran. So that's a
hopefully
really
you made
great.
your flight.
Yeah, we did. And then he wanted to
Yeah.
do it
So
again when we
just
got back. So
just keep moving. That's it.
I love
There's
that.
no
Well, thank you
downside to that.
again so much for coming on and for sharing all these great tips. I think this is such an important topic, and I know you've shared things that have helped me. So,
Well, thanks, Christina. It's been an honor, and I've had a lot of fun chatting with you.
oh, you too. Silly entrepreneurs, guys, this is your call to take action. So, head over to our community at etatoday.zone and learn how to build a business that enables your lifestyle instead of taking over your life. Till next time.
Bye.